What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Bullpen. Today, I got a real special guest for you guys. I'm stoked to get to know this guy a little bit more. We actually just bumped into each other a few months ago at AlphaCon, right?
Yes, yeah.
That was the first time we officially met in person, because I've known who you are for a little bit, but this is the first time I actually got to meet you in person. So I'm excited you came on the Bullpen, and we're gonna jam. Just for you guys who don't know who this guest is, if you're living under a rock, this is Dan Caldwell, the co-founder of Tapout, right?
Yep.
The current president of Lions Not Sheep, family man, entrepreneur, connoisseur. We're going to dive into all that shit. First and foremost, though, thanks for coming on the Bullpen.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks for having me, man. You were so kind that day to invite me to your event, and I just wanted my son to see Nick speak.
Yes, yeah.
And I saw Nick come out of get out of a car, and I was like, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe he was there.
Yeah.
And we were living at the hotel because we just moved to Utah.
Right. Yeah, you just moved in. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were living there, and I didn't even know you had an event there. So it was just a luck of the draw. And then when I saw him, I'm really trying to get my son to be around. I want him to be around the best and people have inspirational stories. And so when I saw Nick, I was like, oh my gosh, he's got to see him speak, because I've been watching Nick for a while. I've been following him. And so that was just and then you were kind enough to invite us to the event. So that was really cool. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. I'm glad you're able to come in and experience that. Like, Nick's a good friend of mine, and I'm glad he actually moved out here to Utah. Unfortunately, he's moving away back to Florida.
Oh, is he?
He is. I mean, I think he'll be back and forth between here and Utah. But man, what a powerhouse, right?
Dang, I didn't even get to connect with him. He was like, you got to connect with me. Why? I just moved here. He just said, I just moved here.
He did just move here. Yeah. Then he's got to move. But he'll be back and forth, but he'll be here for the next little while. So maybe we should just put together something so we can all kind of hang out.
Oh, that'd be great.
Maybe we'll go play some poker back there.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool. Well, listen, man, I'm really excited to get to know you more, because I got a lot of questions for you. But first and foremost, like every one of my guests, I want to know, man, like, what's your story? Because being the co-founder of Tapout, everyone knows what Tapout is, right? In the fight world, it just honestly, everyone knows what Tapout is. It's a massive brand that you started, right? And then coming today with all these other businesses you guys have built, dude, what's your story, man? How'd you get to this point?
Well, I think I grew up in San Bernardino, which was. And when I graduated from high school, the murder capital of the United States, That's Chicago now. Yeah, right? I mean, it's the usual entrepreneur story. That we didn't have a lot of money. I grew up in a really bad neighborhood. I remember my dad, but a great family. Yeah, an amazing. Well, we're in Utah, Mormon family. Yeah, really family oriented. Amazing parents. They're still married today. Incredible parents. Yeah. They really shaped me. But we lived in this, nest, kind of like protected from. And I honestly, the truth is, I don't think I lived in a bad neighborhood. I didn't think about it too much. Didn't feel that way at all. Like I remember my dad ripping me out of my bed during a drive-by shooting. Oh shit! And I thought somebody was banging on the side of the wall with a hammer, because that's what it sounded like to me. I was and I'm asking my dad, what's going on? Like, why are they hitting our wall with it sounded like a hammer is what it sounded like to me. And I was probably, I don't know, maybe I was 12 or something like that. And he's laying on top of me, and these gunshots are going off, and it was like my mom had been mugged in front of our house, and we've been broken into. My dad, one of our cars got broken into. My dad chased the guy with a gun down the street. It's like we got in a shootout in front of our house. Me, my brother, my dad, with some guy trying to break into one of our other cars.
Hold on, you actually got into a shootout with another guy in front of your house? What in the world? How old were you?
But I was probably about 19 at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the neighborhood we lived in. Yeah. But it was a weird situation when you live in those circumstances. You don't really think about that. I just felt like, that's how everybody lives. I didn't know any different.
Yeah, haven't seen anything else.
I mean, the first time I had money and somebody took me to go to a nice restaurant, I'd never really been to. I mean, my nice restaurant was Sizzler. It's like that's the only restaurant I'd ever been to.
Sizzler, Applebee's.
Yeah. So when you finally go to a nice restaurant and somebody delivered some like creme brulee. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, Satan himself made this. They don't give this to poor people. Right. Poor people don't get a chance to taste this. And so it was just a different life. It's like, that's how we grew up. But I knew at some point, there was something better. I knew that I wanted something better for my life. And I thought originally, I was one of those born entrepreneurs, like I'm sure you've had on this show.
Yeah.
Small little circuses when I was little, trying to collect everybody's money.
Yeah.
I did magic shows,
selling Pop-Tarts at school.
Trying to steal all my friends' money.
Yeah, right.
Like in an entrepreneurial way.
Yeah, right.
And so I was always building that. I brought I sold candy at school and different things, you know.
Yeah.
I used to sell marbles at school.
Yeah.
But just all that, and I always thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. And in high school, I lied about my address because I'd heard that my senior year that this neighboring school that not only had better looking girls, but also it was kind of like where all the rich kids went.
Yeah.
Because I went to San Gregonio, which was a really bad school at the time.
Sounds like it. Jeez.
And I thought, oh man, my friend who was going to Redlands High School, he said, oh man, you got to come over here. All the girls are beautiful.
Yeah,
and like everybody's got money over here. But the best part about it was I heard they had a class where they taught, it was an entrepreneurial elective class. So you built your business, kind of in concept and then wrote, and then at the end of the year, you had to turn this business plan. And I thought, what a great, I got to go, I want to be an entrepreneur. I remember ditching school to go visit this guy who had a Subway up in Lake Arrowhead, which is in the mountains right above us.
He had like a Subway franchise location?
They had a Subway franchise.
Okay, gotcha.
And he owned like 5 of them. I didn't know at the time, but I had talked to him one time when I was up there, and he said, oh yeah, this is I just could tell, an owner when he's a little more courteous.
Yeah,
he
right.
makes sure that you're happy,
Going
and
a little
giving you
over,
the extra napkin.
Right,
And so I just knew he was the owner. And I had asked him if I could come up and speak to him sometime. So one day I just ditched school to go up there and talk to him. And he was awesome. We sat down, we had lunch, he gave me a free sandwich, and we talked for about an hour. And he just told me all about the ins and outs of owning a business. But I realized that at that time that he wasn't, because my business plan was to open a snow cone shop.
Nice.
Because I thought there's,
a lot of money.
The overhead's low.
Yeah, right.
And, you get to sell this,
you
make it for like pennies and you sell it for a lot of money. And I thought, this is going to make me a millionaire.
Right.
Well, after talking to him, he said, I own 5 Subways and I'm still not really making money. I'm barely breaking even.
Oh.
And I thought,
that's
that kind of crushing.
Yeah, that
doesn't help.
Yeah.
But also, so while I'm in high school, there's also a class on law enforcement. And so I thought I'll, just trying to take electives that were exciting and something that interests me. I thought I would take that too. And it was taught by an ex-homicide detective, a female homicide detective, the first female homicide detective for San Bernardino County.
Wow.
And she was, the stories that she would tell in that class blew me away. Her chasing people, jumping out of the car, throwing a baton at the guy's head, and you're just I was like, what? People get to do this?
Yeah.
And so I joined the Explorers for the Sheriff's Department. And
what's the Explorers? Is that like Boy Scouts for?
It is. Technically it's the Boy Scouts, but the crazy thing is when the Explorers there, at that time, at least, you wore a uniform that looked just like the Sheriff's Department. You had a belt on that looked just like the Sheriff's Department. The only difference, and we had pepper spray and handcuffs and everything. The only difference was that we didn't have a gun, and we had this little rocker below the San Bernardino Sheriff's patch that said Explorer Unit or something like that. And so,
could you write citations?
Yeah, well, they would have you write citations while you're on patrol. So they're driving. You look like a secondary officer, kind of.
Yeah.
And so it was just this cool feeling, being 17 years old and you're riding with a deputy and you're in car chases. And,
do they still do that?
Oh, yeah,
they still do.
Yeah,
I've never heard
join
this
the
before.
Explorer program.
Fascinating.
And so I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I would go with these guys. I can remember my neighbor was the deputy sheriff, and so I would try to go out and ride with him, and he was like the action guy of the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. He had the record for the most, what they call 10-851 pens, where it took 5 stolen cars to get this pen, and he had 60 of them or 100 of them or something. And so I'd go ride with him, and all he would do was he was just action. And he would see some guy, and he would go turn on his lights, hey, let me talk to you for a second. And all of a sudden the guy'd take off running. He'd be like, jump in the car and follow me.
Yeah.
And so I'd go jump in the driver's seat, and I'm 17 years old driving this police car. He says, I remember him telling me, like, if something happens, like if you see me in a gunfight or this guy pulls a gun or he's coming after you, you pop the shotgun. And I was like, I'm 17 years old. This guy's going to tell me I get to pop the shotgun? Yeah. What? This is the best job ever.
Yeah.
So I decided to start saving my money so I could put myself into the police academy. So I became a police officer for like 7 years.
Wow.
And did that for a while.
Yeah.
And then a good friend of mine who I'd met, when I first started, so about that time when I decided I was going to put myself through the police academy, I'd become like just out of high school, had become a security guard for the high schools. So I'm like just out of high school,
and now I'm Yeah.
And my guy who trained me, my partner, Charles Lewis, he became my best friend, and eventually we were the ones who started Tapout together. So,
is he the one you started it with?
So we both became police officers. He became a deputy sheriff. I became a police officer, and during that time, we kind of, it's like it's a love-hate relationship with law enforcement. Like you love the work,
right?
But it is like you think you're getting into this position because you want to be able to help people and you want to kind of be in control of your own life, be able to do what you want to do. It's like if I want to go jump in the car and go start pulling over cars and being proactive, I can. If I want to just be reactive and take some reports, I can. But you're kind of left to your own, it's not like you're not being told what to do. You're not feeling like you're in an assembly line doing mindless work.
Right.
And so it felt like a really good job at first, but at some point there's so much politics in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And it the top, and I understand seeing kind of what they're going through too. They have a lot of pressure coming down on them,
right?
And they're pushing it down to the lowers, the deputies and police officers that are patrolling the streets, and it's really just not fun sometimes.
Yeah.
And you start to get like, wow, there's got to be something better than this. This is not what I got into this for.
Yeah.
I got into really help people, and like because I felt like being bullied, when I was younger, and being kind of the small kid, and not that you're out trying to. I wanted to really help people. Like I wasn't trying to be like that cop who just pulled people for. I felt it was hard for me sometimes when we had mandatory towing recommendations. When somebody's license was suspended or something, I had to tow their car at that point. And I knew when I pulled that guy over, and he probably had a family, and I'm pulling him over, and now he's I can remember a situation where I had pulled this guy over and his license was suspended and I had to tow his car. Well, I knew he was probably never going to get his car out. It was a mandatory 30-day tow. So he's probably never going to get his car out of tow because it's going to cost him $600, and he didn't have the $600. He's probably going to lose his job now because he can't get to work. And it just kind of felt like, how are we, sometimes it's like, it's a fight with yourself. I'm like, how am I helping people when this guy who's just trying to do his best and he's trying to go to work, and now I have to tow his car, and now he's probably going to lose his job, and he's probably not going to be able to get his car out of tow. And now am I starting this downward spiral in his life? I know he ultimately perpetrated that because he didn't, he didn't fix his suspended license.
Right.
But I didn't know what were his circumstances when that happened. So it was just a hard thing to wrestle with. And I thought there's got to be something better for our lives. So when Charles came to me one day, he came to me and said, "Hey, I have this idea for this T-shirt company." And because in 1993, right after we got I think we might have still been in the academy. We watched the very first UFC. And we thought, we got to learn how to do that, because that is law enforcement work. When we saw Hoist Gracie come in there, Hoist Gracie called me yesterday.
Did he really?
Yeah, I was actually talking to him yesterday.
Shit.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that's pretty dope to talk to the Gracies. Holy shit, yeah.
He just called me out of the blue, see how I was doing.
Yeah.
And we saw this guy who was 170 pounds beat up like 4 guys that night.
Yeah.
And we just thought, this guy, there's a skill set there.
Yeah.
And the skill set looks like law enforcement, looks like police work, because we're taking people down.
Yeah.
We're getting them into custody, basically not having to hurt them for the most part.
Right.
And getting them in control where you can cuff them up and take them down.
And we're talking Hoist, we're talking strictly about like jujitsu and all that.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, right.
And to watch Horace Gracie do that, I was like, we got to learn how to do that. So a week later, we found out that he had a school down in Torrance, California, which we thought he was in Brazil because that's all they talked about. Yeah. He's coming from Brazil.
Yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, right.
And but found out he had a school in Torrance. And a week later, we were down there training. It was about an hour drive from us. Yeah. But the first class is free, and we decided, hey, we got to go down and learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So once we started doing it, we just fell in love with it. You can't, when you train jiu-jitsu, there's something about it. It's just addicting because it's like you feel yourself getting better. And as you start to get better, it's addictive because you know you're better, and you said, like yesterday I wasn't this good, but today I'm better.
Right.
And then the next time you go, you're even better, and you feel yourself getting like that.
It's definitely it's probably the most artistic form of like fighting that there is. Right. I mean,
have you trained in martial arts before?
Yeah. So I've actually done jiu-jitsu. And I only did it for like 4 or 5 months, and I want to get back into it because I miss it. Right. Because I miss it, and I've done like boxing and like like stuff like that, which boxing's definitely an art form, right? Fighting in general is an art form, right? But jiu-jitsu to me is definitely the most fluid and artistic, I'd say, when it comes, because it's not about aggression. It's not like other ways, like it's just about just understanding movement, understanding it's such a science,
it's
you know what I'm saying?
Chess.
Yeah, it really is.
Like you
because I'm playing against you. There. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because really, there's a lot of moves I can know, but at the end of the day, it's all what you do determines my movement, right?
And if you get and that how the reason why they advance you in belts in jiu-jitsu is because it becomes like a game of pool, like a 9-ball. And when you start, the beginner is just looking for the immediate play. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I just want to hit that ball in. But as you start to become better, and a novice or an expert, a novice is looking, one play ahead. Yeah. So he's like, I got to hit this ball, but I got to use enough English to send me right here so I can get into the next ball.
Right.
But the black belt, the pro, he's looking 4 moves ahead, 5 moves ahead,
which is like chess, exactly. Yeah, it's a chess pro.
And just like chess too. Yeah. I play more pool than I do chess. So. But that's really what it is, and it becomes addictive. So when we started doing it, I think it was like, how can we, like anything, I think great entrepreneurs try to find what they love to do and then build a business around it. Yeah. And that's not always the case, but, and sometimes you learn to love what you do. Yeah. But I think the best entrepreneurs, the Steve Jobs of the world, find something that they love and then they just build a business around it.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were doing. We started doing jiu-jitsu all the time. We were going a couple times a week, and how can we do this more? And when he came to me and said, hey, what do you think about starting a clothing company, like a t-shirt line? Yeah. That's all we knew at that time. And we weren't t-shirt printers or anything. Right. I knew nothing. Yeah. Even to this day, if you stuck me in a t-shirt shop and said, hey, go print some shirts, I wouldn't even know where to start. I kind of know the concept of it, but I'm not like a printer. I wouldn't call myself a t-shirt guy or a garment guy. Right. I consider myself more of a marketer. Both of us were more marketers.
Which is that's the piece of the business, right? Like as a business owner, you're not like, that's the thing that people don't understand about, especially I'm sure you talk to entrepreneurs like, how do I start a business? Like, well, the thing about business is you don't need to know all the details. You just need to know what you need and get the right people to fulfill it, right? Oh yeah. I'm never going to be skilled. Like maybe if I really dedicated my life to it and really put in an effort, I'd be really skilled at creating content. But honestly, I'm not. That's not my art. That's not what I'm good at. So I hire someone who's really, really good at. Shout out to Josh and Colby. Right? Who's really, really good at, because that's what they're so good at, right? And so when you're talking about this, it's talking about, like the printing t-shirts. Well, that's an art form in of itself that it would take you a long time to really master that. But now in all reality, if you're running a business, you don't need to master that thing. You just need to understand, I need this and I need the right people, because business is a game of having the right people to be able to perform, right?
And that is absolutely the formula to why we succeeded. Yeah. Because it wasn't, and I think this, you start to learn it a little bit as a law enforcement officer that like I was I was one of my SWAT team would always they always needed a uniformed officer for certain things when they do search warrants. So I was always kind of that uniform. I was young too, and I was kind of a new officer, but they knew I was aggressive and I was out there finding work and I was proactive, and so they would always take me as that uniformed officer. And we were a small department, but still I was that uniformed officer. Yeah. And I think you start to realize as you get into work that you want to be surrounded by the best people, because it helps, especially when you're life and death, when the job is life and death, you want to we should take that guy or we should take this guy. It's like you have a choice, and you didn't take the guys that didn't seem to take their job very seriously or weren't good at their job. So you would go find the guys that, it's like if I was going to go I knew I was going to go try to find this guy who I had a warrant. And so if I'm going to go take a guy, I would go hit up one of the guys that I knew was at my level or better than me, so that we would go find this guy together. Because I knew my back would be covered. Right. So I think in the same way in business, but even more so, you learn that and you get better at that as that wisdom starts to kick in and you have life experience. And that's what we really started to do. We found, as we built the company, we found guys that were the best in their fields and brought them in. I don't think we would have succeeded if it wasn't for that.
Right. Naturally. Oh. Perfect. Yeah. So so you start printing the t-shirts, right? And you start building the business, like kind of based around talk about a good time to do it at the starting of when UFC was, just coming out, right? Yeah. And by the way, at that time, like you said, they would have like fighters fight multiple fights per day, right? It's not just like one per 6 months. It was like like these tournaments almost of like you'd fight like 4 fights per day. Tournament. So like that's crazy to think to do like 4 fights a day or whatever it was. That's insane. Because now it's so much different. It's just these big card events where they have fights every however many months or whatever. But so you come back to time. Okay, UFC is just coming out. You guys are starting to get into jiu-jitsu, starting to print t-shirts. Then what happens? How did Tapout become what it became?
Yeah, so in 1997, that's when we started the company, kind of in concept. Really, we weren't even doing shirts at the time. We didn't. The internet was kind of just kicking off, and so the idea that we could print shirts and put them online was intriguing because that's what everybody was kind of talking about. Yeah. We didn't know much about the business. I didn't know anything about being online. Right. And it's kind of cool that we were able to go through all those moments, because I kind of consider us one of the first online clothing businesses. Yeah. Because at that time, nobody sold their clothing online. It just wasn't, people thought, how are we going to sell clothing online? People have to try it on. Right. Yeah. Sure. And most stores wouldn't let the company themselves, whoever it might be, sell online because they felt like it was going to cannibalize their sales. So they were like, oh, you can't, if you're in our store, you can't sell online. So like if you're in a big box store, whatever that might be, we're not going to allow you to sell online because now it's going to cannibalize our sales. So if it was Zoomies or Tilly's or whoever was big at the time, they would just basically put a moratorium on it. You're not allowed to do it. But because we started online, so we just started with a small website, and we couldn't even get tapout.com at the time because somebody else owned it. Oh, really? So we started with inyaface.com. We didn't know that was even important. Yeah. So it was inyaface.com. It didn't even make any sense. Yeah, right. But that was just what we decided to call it. And we talked to this martial arts store, and we had them kind of be our place of commerce. So they were not only carrying it was like the first store we actually decided to put our clothes into, but we also had them operate as the person that would take the phone calls and send out the orders. Right. And it was a way for us to just concentrate on marketing. Yeah. And so in 1998, we started talking to different fighters, and because we were in kind of that early group of people that were training jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts, as that started to evolve to mixed martial arts, we called it No Holds Barred at the time, NHB. Really? Yeah, nobody called it MMA. That was a name that came later.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. That was always MMA.
Yeah. No, it was called NHB at the time. So everybody called it NHB, No Holds Barred. And that kind of, I don't know if that
this time
came from Brazil.
I was 3 years old, so.
Jeez, you dated me. But it was, it it was really cool to be in kind of, it's 1901 for baseball, or 1905 for baseball. It's like baseball is just emerging. That's how this sport felt.
Yeah.
And we didn't start in a time when it was booming. It was basically illegal everywhere. Like they couldn't throw UFC fights anywhere. They were trying to throw it, and I can remember events like trying to go off, and then all of a sudden they would say, oh no, the event's canceled. They can't throw this UFC. Early on, I was arrested at a place just because we were trying to sell our clothes, and they had raided it for a fight. It was like a local club.
Interesting.
And so it was very early in the whole mixed martial arts thing. And this is pre-2001, before Zuffa, the billionaires, Lorenzo Fertitta and Frank Fertitta and Dana White came and purchased it. So
was Dana White a billionaire before UFC?
No. He was like a trainer. I mean, this is the guy.
That's what I'm saying,
He's self-made. He's totally self-made.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, like, Dana, I thought was just a hustler at the time, almost doing I think it was like a bellhop or something like that at the time. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I think when he was managing Tito Ortiz at the time, and he was like a boxing coach, but not like a big formal boxing coach, not like training people that were, he was kind of training like up and comers and just trying to get side-in jobs and stuff. But he was a hustler. He was from Boston, just, hardworking guy.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think he was working at the front of a hotel or something.
Yeah, it's like I think Sanders was doing like a bellhop job or something like that. Yeah.
So just a real hustler, and he just heard that the UFC, that Bob Merowitz, who owned it at the time, he was like an ex-TV executive or something, and we were working with him. So right out the gate, we were able to kind of get into, because the sport, I think it was the perfect storm, because if the UFC would have been big, it would have been impossible for us to get close to it.
Right.
But we right away in 1988 were able to start talking to the owners of the UFC, the people that were running the UFC, fighters who were fighting in the UFC, because we were training with some of those guys.
You were right in there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were guys that we knew were going to be fighting next month in the UFC, and we knew there was a guy, Eddie Millis, who was running a training facility in California called Shark Tank, and he was working a lot with this guy, Monty Cox, who was managing all the big fighters at the time. Pat Miletich, Jeremy Horn, Tim Sylvia, just really good guy, Matt Hughes. All the guys that were kind of at that era were the top of the top, the kings.
Yeah.
And in mixed martial arts, and were really, owned belts in different places.
Yeah.
And in his own event too, called Extreme Challenge. And we knew that some of them were going to be fighting in the UFC. So Eddie Mills connected us with Monty Cox, who was their manager. And in 1998, I believe November of 1998, we were in our very first UFC, where we were on Jeremy Horn.
Is this still in your face?
It is still in your
face. In your face. Okay, got it. All right,
this is early. We didn't get Tapout till like 2006 or 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a long period of just hustling early on and just flying all over the country. We would go to different events in Hawaii and Indiana and Arizona, just doing these little tiny events where we'd set up a table just like this.
Yeah.
Throw some shirts up there, some hats, boots, and just try to make enough money to get us through to the next month. And if we did.
Now you're doing this full time. You're not doing anything in the police workforce.
Well, so I was. Okay. So at some point, Charles, probably about 2000, Charles quit. He quit the department. They were coming down on him for some use of force. Yeah. He had put some guy on the wall who would like spit in his face and kind of tuned him up a little bit. And so he just said, I'm tired of this. It's like you got these guys disrespecting you, spitting in your face, and then when you like come back at them, you end up in this use of force and being, they're like ready to fire him.
Yeah, right.
And they put him in like detention, where they put you in a place where you can't get close to anybody. So you're just like sitting in a pod for 8 hours, not being able to do anything.
Yeah.
And so he was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm going in to turn in my badge today. I said, Charles, are you sure? Like, once you do this, there's no going back.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I think we can really make a run of this Tapout. I think we can. And I knew that we were doing like stuff that was good. I felt the energy of the whole sport and the brand.
I mean, it's electric how much people just have flocked towards this new sport, this brand new sport of fighting. People are just talking about like learning about what jiu-jitsu even is, and all that stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
And I think because at that time, especially because we started to get on a fighter, at least one fighter in every UFC. And back then it was like, they were more few and far between. It sometimes 6 months before another UFC was held. So, but we always made sure, let's get on a fighter every single time. We have to, if there's going to be UFC, we have to find some way to get to some fighter.
Right.
And we created a couple good connections with people where we just kind of knew who was going to be fighting next in the UFC, and we would watch some tape on them or go to a show where they were going to be fighting at, and we'd watch them fight and be like, oh my gosh, this guy's incredible.
Right.
Guys like Eugene Jackson, who at that time was just knocking people out, and he was just a kind of a street fighter who had got into, who was also a wrestler and was a natural MMA guy at the time. Today, I don't know how well he would fare in this type of sport.
Yeah.
But at that time, this brawler who was relentless, who was a really good wrestler and training with really good wrestlers.
Yeah.
And just had like boxing hands. Yeah. He was killing people.
Kind of like a Kimbo Slice.
Yeah, exactly, but Kimbo. Even better.
Yeah,
just like at that time, just really good hands, relentless, and then also being an amazing wrestler. Like Kimbo, that's one thing that Kimbo had to learn.
Yeah.
And became pretty good at it ultimately. But at that time, to have guys like that where we could sponsor, and we were paying them hardly anything, but they were getting paid hardly anything to fight.
Right.
So they were fighting in the UFC for like $500.
Yeah, right.
And then we were paying them $500 to fight in our clothes. So it was like they made $1,000. We were paying them as much as the UFC was at the time. And so for them, it was it was good for them. And it was good for us. And I think it was the perfect storm. Sometimes you find yourself in those perfect storms. It's not like you weren't helped by somebody. There's somebody up there watching over you maybe at the time, and you're just like trying to create something, and it's like you're just relentless and obsessed. We were relentless and obsessed at that time about creating something with this company. Yeah. And we felt like we were really onto something, because everywhere we'd go, somebody would like, oh, what is that Tapout? Is that UFC fighting stuff?
Yeah.
And that whole tidal wave was creating itself, and we were just like holding on to it for dear life.
Right. Damn. So, dude. So, what was the real when like Tapout really just blew up? Like when was the moment you felt that? Because it sounds like it was years of flying, of setting up booths, and just the hustle, the grind, just trying to get the name out there. When do you think it really took off?
Yeah, I mean, those whole early 2000s were a struggle. We were going to small events. Yeah, man.
I mean, we're talking about like almost a 10-year period of time. Sounds like, because you're talking like 1998 and up to 2000. Like that's like a long time. I mean, just hustling.
Well, I think those little wins when it was easy to see, and I think we all have that, and I'm sure you have that in your business. Yeah. When you all of a sudden getting on this fighter who's about to fight in the UFC. And you're like, oh my gosh, our stuff's gonna be on television right now, watched by, at that time it was like hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
And they're gonna be wearing our stuff and come out in this big, huge Tapout shirt. I was just like, that was a win for us, and it keeps you going to those next moments. And so we just kept pushing for that. It was like, oh, we have a little win here. We used to call it throwing hand grenades. And that's why I actually put a hand grenade on my hand.
Oh, really?
Because it was just like, that was everything for us. It was like a little hand grenade here and a little hand grenade there. You're not gonna. There's no way you're gonna destroy, a whole enemy with one hand grenade. Right. But if you throw a hand grenade here and you throw it there and you throw it here, you eventually throw enough hand grenades, you're gonna win. Yeah. You're gonna win the war. And that's our thought. We were just like, well, let's keep being relentless. Let's keep finding ways to get in people's faces. And there wasn't the social media that you have today. If there was, we'd have been monsters on that. But it wasn't. We didn't have that. So it was like our outlet was being on these fighters who were representing the sport, because when you watch these guys were the lions of the sport, or of people, of the alphas, the alphas. Right. They were the guys who people wanted to be or wanted to be like. And so we felt like our marketing idea, the big idea was, if we're on these guys that people want to emulate or be like, or be, fashion their personalities.
You were hitting
like,
influencer marketing before there was influencers.
I don't know, maybe. being on those guys made sense because who wouldn't want to, I wanted to be those guys. So why wouldn't they want to be those guys?
Yeah.
And so even though we were training with them and it just felt like a really exciting moment in those early 2000s, we were still hand to mouth. You know, it was like we would make $2,000. I would divvy up, here's like $100 for you. By then in 2003, I quit my job. And so we were both jobless.
Yeah.
And we started to get tattoos. And these were kind of our burning the ships.
Yeah.
You know, it was like when we get tattoos, we had started to get tattoos before. But once you start to come down to your hands or neck, you know you're never going to get a job in law enforcement again.
Really?
And, oh, yeah. At that time especially.
Okay.
Now people are a little more lenient when it comes to tattoos.
I didn't know
but
that.
At that time, you had a tattoo on your neck, you'll never be a cop again.
Interesting.
And so thinking about that, it was like, okay, when we go to get this, and one of the first ones I had was a Tapout on the back of my neck.
Right.
Was like, there it is. That's my burning the ships. When
Yeah.
I get this tattoo, I'm never going back to law enforcement again. There's no plan B. I have to make it. There's no choice. We have to make this succeed, or we're done. You know, or I'm going to be plowing somebody's field in Indiana. You know? It's
that's
like,
right.
There's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
So I'm not good at anything else. And at that time, I just pretty much thought, I don't know, what else would I do if I can't make this work?
I think people would be shocked how powerful it is. Like, I feel like we talk about burning the ships a lot, and so people don't really understand just how powerful it is to tap into the most basic of human emotions, the fight or flight. And when we say burn your ships, when we're talking about you burn your ships, you've lost your career, you've given up all your, quote unquote safe income, and you are all in on one thing. You are tapping into the most natural and the most powerful just energy that's inside of you of, if I don't kill it, I won't eat, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
If I don't kill it, my family won't eat. It's coming back to that hunter mentality of, if I don't perform, we won't survive. And that is the most powerful way of understanding. That's why when he burnt the ships, they realized if we do not fight and establish ground here, and you want to talk about that story,
we're dead.
We're dead. They realize it real quick. There's no going back. If we don't literally not only fight and win, we're like an established camp. Like, how are we going to eat? How are we going to survive? And that's the things like, so, that's what happened to me with Alpha when I started to build it. Like I left. I left everything I knew. I left Utah. I left everything to start. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it was also the scariest thing I ever did, right? Putting yourself in a situation of fear and letting that fear drive you. I don't think people understand just how powerful that is, right? Especially as a man who has a family, and your responsibility is to take care of your wife and your children, make sure there's food in their mouths.
Yeah.
Oh, if you think you're lazy, they get all laziness will go out of your mind, because you don't have time to think of any lazy thoughts at that moment. You're obsessed. You like literally just the obsession takes over, because you have nothing else you can possibly think of. Right. So I'm getting chills when you're talking about it.
You up at night. You know, I would sit there and trying to figure out how we were going to pay our bills. I can remember driving to LA to pick up. I was driving this old van that we had bought at like auction for $1,000, fixed it, painted it black, and thrown some big, huge Tapout stickers on it. And I was driving to LA, and I'm listening to like Eminem "Lose Yourself," and tears are coming down my face, and I'm like yelling, at the top of my face, like, we're gonna make this. We're gonna make this happen. I don't care. Please help me, God.
Yes.
And I'm just. I mean, that is what, it's so powerful. Like you said, it's that if you can tap into that, that's what makes you get through those hard times. Because there's times that everybody's going to want to quit, and we wanted to quit.
Oh yeah.
But at that time, we just couldn't. We knew we had something good, but as much as we wanted to quit sometimes, because we felt like we couldn't even pay our bills. I mean, I remember Charles's dad, he had a really hard time, because his dad, he had borrowed his dad's motorcycle, and it was the only form of transportation. And his dad, he called me one day, just kind of very emotional, that his dad had came to take his motorcycle. And I was like, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm with you. Like, but I couldn't, I had to be the strength at that moment, because he was down. And that's what's so great about having a partner, because I feel like when you're down, this partner can be strong. And when I'm down, that partner can be the strong one to help you through those hard times, because it's hard being a lone entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you can see how hard it would be if you don't have a good partner too. That's why the key to business, people understand the key to business. You know what? Marketing techniques, dude, you can go knock doors. Like the most basic form of business that has built billion-dollar companies. Vivint is a billion-dollar company off the foundation of sending young dudes out all over the country to knock on doors and sell it, right? And you know why? Because, marketing is one thing, right? And there's the most optimized strategies, and marketing is just a game of failure. It's a game of trying things out, failing, and then rehashing. But at the end of the day, what makes a business run is people. Having the right people. That's business. You don't have a business if you don't have people.
Yep.
You don't have a business if you don't have clients. People is the game of business. So that's how you win. And that's why I'm sitting here saying, like, if you had a bad partner, then it like, how do you make it? Because it's hard enough, let alone having a partner who's negative or a partner who's tearing you down or the business down, or it's just like, you can't survive in that way.
Yeah, having a great partner is everything. I mean, especially when you have a great partner, you feel like you guys can take on the world. When you feel like your team, it's like being on a great baseball team, or a great football team, whatever it is for you.
You got your boys, you got your gals,
when you have a great trainers, and you feel like I got the best trainers in the world. My trainer's telling me I'm prepared. I know I'm ready. I'm ready to fight anybody. Put anybody in front of me. You close that gate and game on. Like, I'm going to win this fight. And I think that's how I felt with Charles. I was like, I knew we had a great team, and we had another partner, Scrape. And between us three, I just felt like we have all these bases covered. We're all kind of good at different things, and we're all pushing each other, and we're all coming up with these great ideas, and we have a great idea. And I think we're going to make this. I know we're going to make this work. And there's just no chance that any of us were going to quit. And even in those moments where we felt like we're our darkest days, when he's got no car to drive, he's sleeping on somebody's floor on a mattress and renting a room for $265 a month. We still know that something special is happening here, and we're gonna make it.
So when people don't really understand these stories, that's why I love asking every guest on here what their stories, because I'm just listening to this, dude. I'm getting fired up because like renting a room, staying on someone's couch, right? People, that's tough. You wake up on a couch. No. What's tough is that you got the people looking at you and calling you a loser, saying, go get a job, right? That's what's tough. What's tough is that you don't realize the energy around just like having to do that, having to humble yourself to a level to sacrifice for a business that people don't understand, because everyone else around you is like, why don't you get a real job? Like, why don't you quit being lazy? Like, you're not really like selling t-shirts online, come on, what this fighting thing? Why don't you go do something else, And it's that kind of thing that you have to fight through. And maybe it's not even just outside people, it might be your own inner demons telling you that, right? And so I'm listening to these stories. I'm like, man, just the perseverance that it takes to go through. Like, you're talking about, crying in the car. When me and my wife were driving to Dallas, I was bawling because I'm just telling her, babe, I promise you I'm going to make it worth it. I promise you. I'm just embarrassed that we had to move to this rinky-dink apartment just to do this. And I was embarrassed that I had to do this. And I'm just begging her, just telling her, like, crying, like, I promise you I'll make it worth it. I promise you. And I'm just thinking about you just screaming, hitting the steering wheel, listening to Eminem, just like, oh, dude, it's just that energy. That's the hustle, man.
And if that's part of what makes you too, it's so powerful, because I'm sure you have pride. And I didn't you play football? I just talking to. I said your name out loud. I'm about to go to a podcast, and Jeremiah Evans, and the guy goes, "Hey, I went to school with Jeremiah." I was like, some guy from behind me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like, oh, yeah. So,
do you know his name? Football.
No, I didn't know. Yeah, but I was just thinking, like, when you're prideful, and you have that in you, and you're like, and we all are. I think it's it's part of who we are as men, and or women can be that way too. It's like we're all prideful, and when you start to feel like pieces of that is being, taken away or challenged, at least, you're like, I can beat this. Like, you start to dig deep, and there's people that will, that won't. They'll throw in the towel.
Oh yeah.
But I think the best of us, and the reason why we're sitting here talking on a podcast, because the best of us decide there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm laying down.
Right.
There's no way that people are going to make me quit.
Right.
Whatever this is, I'm better than this, and I'm going to figure out a way.
Yeah.
And we just always do.
Right. Dude, I love it, man. Let me ask you, let me reverse and ask you a question that I think is crucial to talk about is the police force. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I'm pretty nervous for our future because it is, you know, you're talking about political back then. It's more political now than ever. Police, you know, everyone in the police force, you know, and I respect their service. You know, I'm grateful for them. You know, the thin blue line that protects us. People they really don't see the evil that is in this world that you guys are facing on a daily basis, right? Yeah. Like literally just take it, like just protecting, you know, like the way of life, right? But then we attack them, right? We attack the police force, you know, saying, you know, like, you know, overly aggressive, you know, tactics, right? Or talking about, you know, or just going through these scenarios and just destroying, you know, what's there. And I'm nervous that not enough people will want to become police officers. Not enough people will want to take that job. Not enough people who will take that job are qualified for that job. It's becoming more and more important for us to have a police force, and yet we're slowly tearing it away, you know? And that makes me nervous for the future of our communities because what incentive is there to be a police officer?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody to be a police officer today, but you know what? You'll always find those people. Yeah. There's going to be those alphas of the world who really want to take on that challenge. You know, it's like, I think they feel like there's a challenge there. Like, how can I want to make this a better world? And until you ride in, I encourage anybody who has a problem with law enforcement to go step in their shoes for a minute. Go ride with them and go see. It's free. You can walk into any police department and say, hey, I'd like to go on a ride along. They will set you up on a ride along. And you will see what these guys go through. There's not a police officer in the country, probably in the world, that couldn't write their own book because you don't even know what they go through.
Right.
I mean, you don't know what they see. Yeah. You don't know that the foot chases and the shootouts and bullets whizzing by their head. Every single police officer in this country has that story. Yeah. It's like you think, it probably just happens here, it happens there. If you see it on the news, it's happened 100 times that you haven't seen it on the news.
Because the big ones get on the news.
Only the big ones. Yeah. And sometimes the big ones don't even make it. There's so much going on. If you watch, you can go on YouTube and watch and see how many shootouts law enforcement get into. Right. And it's crazy I've had bullets whizzing by my head. I've been in chases and fights over guns and, you know, where you're literally wrestling over your own gun. Yeah. I mean, those moments, they stick with you. Yeah. And the thing that is just crazy is that every single police officer goes through that. Yeah. I only went through it for a few years comparatively. A buddy of mine who I went through the academy with, he just retired. And so he did 40 years and on the SWAT team. And the thing, I mean, he had to unfortunately shoot and kill somebody. And, at least one that I know about. And he's just, I mean, he was always. And that's just one story, you know, one law enforcement officer. Yeah. So you don't even understand what these guys go through. Yeah. And to stand on the outside and say, oh, he shouldn't have acted this way or he shouldn't have acted that way. The reason I get it, you know, wrong is wrong. And I'm the proponent for like, hey, look, we need to get better. Right. We all need to be better. Absolutely. I grew up in the time of Rodney King. Yeah. So I became a police officer just after Rodney King. Rodney King was 1991 or 2. And I became a police officer in 1993. So I mean, I grew up in the wake of that, and it was hard then. And, you know, here we are going through it again with Floyd. And these guys will always be, it's not like they're, these aren't great people. George Floyd. Yeah, I mean, these aren't, you know, upstanding citizens. Right. So, you know, there's a tendency to go, oh, well, this guy's he's a crook, he's a bad guy. But we have to learn from these experiences. Like, how can we be better? Yeah. Like, I watched that thing, and I'm like, I get what the guy was going through. The officer had to fight with this guy and wrestle him out of the car, and he's going through all this stuff. And he's mad. The video that came out after showed George Floyd constantly saying, I can't breathe, even when he was standing up, even when he was sitting down. He was saying, I can't breathe over and over again. He was saying, I can't breathe when they put him in the car because he's claustrophobic. So the whole I can't breathe thing, he was saying over and over. So now that got released after all the shit, like literally, it was like a year later that got released. And then you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh! Like, but the thing is, I understand a little bit more of why he was a little less sympathetic when he said, "I can't breathe," because he was saying that over and over. Yeah. Right? Well, the thing is, every guy says that. Every guy says the handcuffs are too tight.
Right.
I can't breathe.
My legs hurt.
Yeah, my legs hurt.
I can't walk.
They use it as an excuse not to have to, because if I have to take you medically, then you got to go to the hospital. You don't get to go to jail. So they always, you have this over and over and over again. You hear it he's probably heard it that same day from some other criminal.
So if someone says that, you have to take him to the hospital.
He goes to the hospital first. He eventually will go, but it's a way for him to just prolong that whole thing.
Right.
And maybe he'll get sight release, what we call sight release. So when he gets in there, it's not a major crime. When he gets to the jail finally after the medical thing, they're like, I don't want to take this guy. He's got medical issues. Like, he just come from the hospital. It's just sight release him, get him out of here. So they know that. It's a game that they play. And,
because we're talking about like the criminals are constantly in and out. Yeah.
These are career criminals, and you see it all the time. And sometimes it's hard to tell who is and who's not the good guys. Yeah. Who's not the one-time offender, has a good heart. You don't know, because people don't understand. There are the worst of the worst people out there. There are people that will shoot you in the face with no regard for your life. Yeah. And we see those guys, or at time law enforcement, police officers see those guys every single day. Right. And they look into the face of these guys. They look into the face of, a guy trying to reach in and grab a gun out of the car. There was also that guy who ran back to the car to grab that knife or try to escape or whatever, and the officer shot him in the back. And it's like there's a controversy there, but they don't understand that law enforcement officers die that way. Yeah. The guy runs back to the car. I could show you probably 20, 30 videos of guys running back to the car, pulling out a gun, shooting the police officer. So that's what he's thinking in his head. Right. You might just see a guy who ran back to his car and is like, well, he just was running back to his car to try to get away, or he was trying to lock himself onto the steering wheel. You don't know. Nobody knows what he was thinking. Right. All I know as a police officer is that guy was trying to run back in his car, and if he's got a gun in there, he's going to kill me, and I'm not going to go home to my family. So that's what police officers deal with every day. Right. And so I feel sympathetic to them, and I know that it's hard for this country. We're going to have to meet somewhere. We're going to have to find somewhere where, I think the ride-alongs is great. There's a video out there of this guy who was kind of a protester at the time, and they put him out and put him on a little few scenarios, and he failed every single one. It's like a law enforcement officer would have done, it wouldn't have shot these guys. He would have known the protocol. Yeah. And yet this guy, soon as problems started to arise, he started shooting people. Yeah, right. It's like they don't understand the sensitive situation that law enforcement go through, and the the quick decisions that they have to make in order to save their lives or save other people's lives around them. Yeah. And how often that they lose that battle. Yeah. I mean, there's hundreds of officers that die every year because they've lost that battle. Right.
And I think also what's important to understand here is there's extremes, and that what we talk about is the extremes, right? We talk about the extreme scenarios on the news, on social media. We talk about either end of the spectrum, right? And here's the problem: not every person getting arrested or criminal is a bad person, right? But there's also a lot more who are really bad people, right? So yes, there's a small sliver of people who are not bad people, right? They're just caught in a bad situation or whatever it is. So, and then I've talked to a lot of police officers. I'm curious to think your thought process on this, but when it comes to police officers, there are those police officers who are bad apples, who make the rest of them look bad. Yep. So there is extreme examples of that police officer is absolutely in the wrong, right? That is like, they just they feel, almost empowered to take advantage of the situation because they wear a badge kind of thing, right? And I've talked to a lot of police officers who, look at them and say, you give us a bad name kind of thing, right? And so we talk about the ends and we forget everything in the middle, right? I'm curious, your thoughts on that though, of obviously not, you can't paint a broad brush over any demographic, right? There's good and bad and everywhere, but have you seen anything like that where there is cases of police officers where it's like, well, shit, that dude should not be wearing a badge kind of thing? Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I think as a law enforcement officer, there's so much gray area where you're kind of like, it's like, I'm sure it goes on both sides, is that you feel like you have, this guy's a good guy because he's doing the right thing, and you've seen him help people. Right. You've seen him do this for people. Right. You've seen him reach into his pocket and give somebody money because they didn't have enough money to get groceries for their kids. Right. You've seen those moments, and then later you see him go too far, and you're like, how do you balance that? It's like, do I go ruin this guy's life? That's what they call that blue line, where that line of protection, because we as law enforcement officers want the best. These are our partners. These are the guys we're going to war with.
Yeah.
And that line is a very thick gray line.
Yeah.
And, so you question yourself sometimes, was that maybe threw an extra punch that he shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Did that guy deserve it?
Yeah.
It's like you're in those.
And it amplifies even more if it gets a cut on video, and then they twist the story a certain way.
On video, which is great,
Yeah.
and which I think is the best solution to all of this problem.
Right.
It's like, put it all on video and let people, but keep in mind that these law enforcement officers are making these 1 second decisions.
Yeah. Right.
That they gotta be.
It's a life or death situation.
Yeah, it's a life or death situation, and their life is on the line in a couple ways. Not only is it on the line to go home to their family that night because they could get killed, but it's on the line 6 months later when the people want to take them to court and ask them why that they made that decision.
Yeah.
At that time, I made that decision because I felt like my life was in danger, and sometimes that's not good enough for the jury. People don't care that you were worried about your life at the time. They felt like you should have took more risk, and that's the part that makes law enforcement a really hard job to swallow right now.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to be put in that situation with my family with 5 kids now. Like I wouldn't want to be put in that situation and having to make those types of decisions. But there's thousands and thousands of law enforcement officers that make those decisions every single day.
I mean, there's that interview that Joe Rogan, I believe, did with Jocko, where he talked about the training of police officers and how minimal it is, right? How they deal with it on a daily basis and how minimal their training is, and how Jocko's talking about how every police officer is trained in jiu-jitsu. Obviously, Jocko's big, big advocate of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yep.
But talk about the benefits of that, and you just sit back and think, someone like Jocko who trained, literally SEAL Team 6, right? Talking about the necessity for training in the police force and, how much more there should be. I don't know what the solution is for that, except need more money for training for, the police force or whatever it is. Just, stop spending money on, other bullshit and start training, spending money on, like our fucking governments, cities and all that. They're spending so much money on so much bullshit, putting more money into actual training that would actually, like keep the mind sharp, and like, even just how to handle situations physically, whether it's jujitsu or whatever it is,
Yeah, they say law enforcement only have, we go to the academy for 6 months, and in California, it's probably one of the longest processes for 6 months. People go for, learn how to cut hair, cosmetology school, longer than that. And, it's like, and it's like we have to be better as law enforcement officers and do our own training, go above and beyond, and decide that.
But the problem is that comes out of your guys' budget.
I totally get that.
And that's the problem is you guys, the pay is, not optimal, right?
For sure, but your life is on the line.
Yeah.
And it matters.
Which then comes down to the police officer's decision of, is this a life I want to live, of not making enough money for my family, or like not making enough money to get by, and then having to pay extras so my life can be on the line, and then having the political stuff coming down on my head. Like that's the, storm that I'm worried about of why people wouldn't want to be police officers moving forward.
Yeah. I think every police officer, every person in the world wants to be better at whatever it is, and they just, I think it has to be where their concentration is. It's like maybe they're finding, it's like you have to realize that your life is on the line every day, and that you have to, whether you have to dig into your own pocket, or most departments, if you ask them, they'll put you through training that you want to go through. You just have to come ask. And so if you decide, hey, I want to go through this training, you can ask to be put through that training. They might turn you down, but it's an option that you have. And I think no matter what, every law enforcement officer should be trained jiu-jitsu. That's just a given. Like that should be a requirement. That's the one thing that I would fight for. Is that jiu-jitsu should be a requirement.
It's the ultimate equalizer of like, doesn't matter if you're 140 pounds or 250 pounds. It's gonna, as long as you're training techniques, you'll be able to control the situation.
We wrestle bad guys all the time.
Right.
Like all the time.
Right.
Like every time you put your hands on somebody, jiu-jitsu has started.
Yeah.
The practice has started. The game has started.
Controlling hands.
You're controlling arms. I mean, and there's a level. Sometimes people turn around and start throwing blows, or sometimes people just want to get away and they're fighting their way out of there, or sometimes just the arms start to get a little tense and you're like, hey, and if you put something on them real quick, you've stopped what could have been a major fight because they realize, okay, I'm probably not going to win this.
Right, yeah.
So they just give up and put their hands behind their back and keep their hands behind their back. So you just have to, when you start to realize that, I think if a law enforcement officer is not training to get himself better, and other people, I mean, I think jiu-jitsu should be a requirement, but there's certain officers that lift or, or wrestle or whatever they do that, but make sure you're doing something, do something to make yourself better. And I encourage that jiu-jitsu that's going to save your life.
Maybe like, one level, like blue belt or purple belt, or like just some certain level requirement that you have to achieve.
If any blue belt in jiu-jitsu can beat just about any human out there.
Except for someone who's never trained. Yeah, that's right.
Who hasn't trained.
How long does it take to become a blue belt?
It depends on what school you go to, but I mean, usually it may take a year or so.
Interesting.
Probably year and a half.
Huh. Wow, dude, man, we've covered some good stuff on this, man.
Yeah.
We've been already going for an hour.
All over the place.
I feel like I could ask you so many questions, man. We're running out of time, unfortunately. But if there's one thing you want to leave our audience with, at the end of the day, what would it be? That's a loaded question. But.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll just go back to. I mean, there's so many things that we can tell people, but I think if people can just remember, if they have a dream or a goal or something that they want to do in life, and we're so many, the world wants to tell us right now, especially everybody, there's so much going on. There's cryptocurrency and there's this and there's that and NFTs and everybody's doing something, right? And I think that the world wants to tell you to diversify. And I think at this level, if you're just trying to find success, you need to double down on whatever your dream is. Double down. Not, I need to I'll do some of this or put some of my money into that. It's like you need to double down on that one thing and burn your ships, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to fight through those hard days, those days that want to close you down, whatever wants to stop you from chasing your dream, that money that runs out, that rent that you can't pay, that wife that leaves you, whatever that is that you're going through right now is all fixed by just being obsessed and doubling down on what that is that you want to do in life. And that doesn't mean to like forego your relationships, because you have to, your relationships are what are going to help you get through. That's your team. It's like, don't neglect your wife because that's your team. Don't neglect your kids because that's your part of your team. And if all those pieces aren't working together, they just, it's a plan that's not going to work.
Right.
But I think so many people, I just see so many people talking about diversifying. I watch, I'll thumb through videos and I hear people talking about, I'm investing in crypto and I'm starting my own business and I'm, I'm trying to start a website and I'm also doing my artwork and I'm like, because if this don't work, that'll work.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know who's telling them this and it definitely not somebody who's had huge success, because anybody who's had huge success will know that you have to double down on your dream. If you don't, I don't think you'll have the fortitude when those hard times come to really break through that noise. It's just being an entrepreneur is kind of like, it's almost worse than being a cop in some ways.
Yeah.
It's like the world is constantly attacking you.
Yeah.
And it's constantly coming down on you. And I think Steve Jobs said, if you're not doing something you love, you'll find a reason to quit.
Yeah.
It's just because it's so easy to just say, okay, I'm done.
Right.
I can't take no more. But if you love it, and every day you get up thinking about it and you're obsessed about it and you dream about it and you eat about it and you sleep about it, it makes it so much easier to keep going. And I think that's the only way that we ultimately made it, because we were all obsessed. We were all... We couldn't wait to jump on the phone and talk about some new idea that we had.
Yeah.
And I think every entrepreneur should have that. And I think that's why what we're all chasing as entrepreneurs. We're all chasing that win, that little win that keeps you going to the next moment.
Yeah, that's right. Damn, dude. We spit some fire on this one, man.
Yeah,
dude,
it's a good time, brother.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you, man. Jeez, what a fucking story.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much more I know we could dive into.
It's like every entrepreneur has a story, I think, that should be a book.
Yeah.
And whether you write it or not. Have you written a book?
I have, actually. It comes out at the end of this month.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to pick that up. Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard challenge for entrepreneurs, to dive into their own stories and relive that. But it's like every entrepreneur, like every police officer, every person probably has a book in their life. But, it's like, how much better can you make that?
Yeah. Dude, I love that. That's why I asked what's your story, because, like, if you don't know anything about my story, like, that's a question I love to ask people, because at the end of the day, what changed my life was my father, telling me to change my story. And ultimately, you have to be the hero of your own story.
You have to be. That's such a great line.
Yeah, and that's what the book's coming out called Alpha Hero, because the message he taught me was, if you're not going to be great or be nothing, then you're a hypocrite. He just, I can't go on forever, but at the end of the day, your story is your story and yours alone. The only thing you own in this life, like, the watches and Lambo, I love them all, right? Those cars, I love them all, right? Sure. But at the end of the day, they're rented, right? One day they'll wither away, right? One day this body will wither away. The only thing we truly own is this, stamped moments in time that you own forever. Those experiences, your story is something that no one can ever take away from you. It's what made you who you are. It's what, made you accomplish what you've accomplished. And that's why, do this podcast. That's why I asked that question, because that's my favorite thing to talk about and just listen to is like the stories, history, even just going, because I know we didn't even get to talk about your business with history. I'm obsessed with history and the stories of, our founding fathers and people and what they've gone through. Alexander the Great, Marcus Aurelius, amazing men and women who have changed the world. It's like, wow, their stories and what they went through and persevered through. That's what, at the end of the day, is what we truly own,
Yeah, I feel like it's the only thing we're going to be able to take with us.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's it.
I mean, whatever that looks like for who, people out there, it's like whatever that looks like for you. But I feel like the only thing that we're going to be able to take with us is our stories, because like you said, it's not going to be, you soon realize, I've had the Ferraris and the Lambos and all those things. And I just feel like those are that you start to realize that those things are not going to make you happy.
Right.
And the only thing that does, I feel like, make me happy anymore is my family and progressing as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a person, building something. That's what makes me happy. And it's I mean, I told you that I got out of Tapout after we sold Tapout in 2010. I was like, and I stayed on for another 5 years. I tried to go out and find happiness, and I had my family, and like all that stuff makes me happy. But there was a piece missing, and it was that building. It's like I need to build something. I need to create something, and maybe for women, kind of like the only thing I can liken that to is women having kids.
Yeah, right.
It's like there's like this thing that is inside of them that makes them want to have kids.
Right.
And for us, or for other people, have building something, building a business or whatever that might be for them. Yeah. And so we all have that in us.
Yeah. I agree, man. Dude, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Everybody listen to this. Go follow this guy. And your Instagram is Tapout, not Tapout Podcast.
Even though I'm with Lions Not Sheep now, it's like that's my new building. That's the new thing I'm having fun with. And
you guys are crushing it over there.
And follow Sean Whalen.
Yeah, you and Sean crushing
it. Sean's a killer, man. Yeah. And I again, attaching myself to good people. Yeah. And it's like, follow him. Yeah. You don't have to follow me. I'm not as excited.
Well, go follow this guy. There's a lot more stories, but go follow Lions Not Sheep. That's a project. We didn't even touch on that,
Lions Not Sheep.
The president, Lions Not Sheep, and see the cool things you guys are doing there.
Amazing things.
Yeah, we'll link all this in the bio for you guys. But dude, at the end of the day, man, I can't tell you enough. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
you,
me.
brother.